Donald Trump's flailing out loud today as new signs emerge at the place he ran to escape political ruin during the Mueller inquiry. Lies about his conduct, attacks on the investigators, and obstruction of the investigation itself don't appear to be working when it comes to the impeachment inquiry of his Ukrainian collusion in plain sight. Several new polls out today showing growing support for the inquiry itself. The most dramatic, a new Washington Post Schar School poll shows 58% of Americans don't agree on much anymore. 58% of Americans support the inquiry. That's up 21 points since July. And a full 49% of Americans go so far as to say they support impeachment and Donald Trump's removal from office. And that's not just among Trump's hardened opponents. Almost a third of Republicans support an impeachment inquiry into Trump's conduct with Ukraine. And a staggering 57% of independents are supportive of the inquiry. Joining us at this table, politics reporter for the Daily Beast, Betsy Woodruff Swan, and Chief Public Affairs Officer for MoveOn.org, Karine Jean-Pierre, both MSNBC contributors. So I went and looked at what the Mueller numbers were, because I think it was surprising that when the report came out with 150 contacts between Donald Trump's orbit and the Russians, 10 acts of criminal obstruction of justice, they didn't really move. After the Mueller report came out, 39% supported an impeachment inquiry, and that may have been some of what led to Nancy Pelosi's sort of stubborn refusal to head down that path. 58% support this one.
It's astonishing. I don't think in Trump's time, his era, we've never seen numbers move this quickly. And there is a trend line that we're seeing from, I think this is the fourth poll now that we're seeing on impeachment. And so like I said, it's astonishing. But I want to go back to the Mueller investigation for a second. I think the difference there was Mueller wasn't leaking, and Donald Trump had the bully pulpit and his, enablers, and they were able to put information out there over and over again. Now we're in a situation where it's pretty much clear cut. It's not confusing what happened, even though he's trying to confuse it. And the Democrats actually have the bully pulpit as well to be able to push the messaging, to be able to talk about getting down to the truth and uncovering the lies. So I think we're just in a different ball game. It's clear cut. It's not as confusing. And we're not talking about a secret probe, right? We're talking about something that's pretty out there in the open.
Betsy, I think it all also is coming from inside the House. I mean, all the calls have come from inside the House. The whistleblower was close enough to have contact with enough White House aides for a Trump appointee to stamp the complaint as credible and urgent. It's been corroborated by the president's own utterances. And it's easy. It's cheating. It's asking a foreign leader to dirty up your opponent because you're too politically weak to do it yourself.
It's the kind of narrative that you can explain in about 30 seconds, and all the core facts that Democrats are mostly relying on have been released by the White House. We have the memo detailing the president's call with Ukraine's president. Anyone can read that, and no one disputes that the four corners of the memo are an authentic document. Everyone agrees on that as a fact, that the memo exists. We have the whistleblower complaint, which, even though the president and Republicans dispute the merits of that complaint, the document itself is not in question. And the simple facts in this case that the president asked a vulnerable U.S. partner to investigate one of his top political rivals, everyone agrees on that. There's just not room for debate in a moment when so many basic facts are up for grabs, unfortunately, in American public life. In this case, those core things everyone agrees on, including the White House.
And he did seem to benefit from sort of branding the Mueller probe as being tied to a deep state conspiracy. This has all happened literally like on the north lawn of the White House.
Although I will say I'm skeptical about this poll for a few reasons. I'm skeptical about for Democrats being too excited about this poll. The reason is that Trump's approval rating has been out of step with impeachment for a while, and now we're seeing it come together. And I don't know how much took chicken and egg. Pelosi back in Mueller hadn't come out for impeachment. I don't know how much the whole Democratic Party saying we are for impeachment, how much that has a sway on Democratic votes. This poll says almost 1/5 of Republicans support his removal from office.
Support the inquiry.
No. Almost 1/5 support his removal, it says in the story of this poll. Give me a break. I mean, last month you had 85 to 90% of Republicans' job approval who've stuck with him through Helsinki, Charlottesville, Stormy Daniels, Access Hollywood, Mueller, and suddenly they say, you know what, this is the breaking point. I don't believe it. The Quinnipiac poll says 94% oppose his removal. I think people are getting way ahead of themselves thinking that Republicans are doing this big jailbreak on Trump. I think the support there is stronger than this poll suggests.
Well, and I think the other indicators for where the Republicans are is that they're AWOL. I mean, I don't know if you were back for the Sunday shows, but it was a debacle.
The silence is notable.
I think the polls can also be a lagging indicator. So I take your point that Republicans still support Trump and oppose impeachment. But I think the idea that the White House is rattled by some of these swings in public approval in a way that they never were. I mean, he railed against the Mueller probe before he took off his pajamas every day for 23 months. This has been going on for, 4 weeks?
I'm not saying it's not notable. I'm not saying it's not notable.
No, but I take your point on Republicans, and I concede it, but the swing, and especially among independents, which is where all the vaping and all the sort of frantic little things, their school uniform type stuff they're trying to do, is their own admission that among swing voters, among women, and among independents, they're dying.
But what's interesting is if you believe in any poll can be an outlier, but if you believe that there is this shift, and it does seem that there is some sort of shift, what's interesting to me and still an open question is that the White House is actually running a very similar playbook on this as they did to Mueller. The president's trying to discredit it in the court of public opinion. We're hearing Congress being called a kangaroo court. We've heard it's a coup. We've heard the whistleblower is guilty of treason. The White House, as Jonathan said earlier, is getting ready to basically fight every single thing when it comes to what Congress is asking for, which is exactly what they did with a high degree of success with Mueller. And the question is, with the public polling moving as it is, with Congress now doing it with the force of an impeachment inquiry, even though they haven't voted on the House floor, does that change how successful this quite successful playbook was the first time around?
Well, I think one of the other differences that they seem to have encountered is that a whistleblower has credibility. The public just think back to Upton Sinclair. Whistleblowers sound the alarm on bad stuff. And and I don't know who this whistleblower is, but whoever he is, his account has been corroborated by the White House's own evidence.
Yeah.
What's their playbook for that?
Everything in the whistleblower account just about has been 100% corroborated by what the White House has put out, as you were saying, by the actual memo of the transcript they put out, by additional reporting. And so I think that is problematic. But again, you're still seeing them trying to discredit the whistleblower. This is yet again the president going up against his own intelligence community, going after a CIA officer for treason. And it's an open question. Is that successful this time around?
And what's interesting to me, just in looking, and I'm as skeptical as you are about polls. I rarely cover any Trump poll because I think he also has hidden support that doesn't always show up in polls. So it's really just around this question of the inquiry. And I think there are people that will tolerate an inquiry that in the end may not support his removal, and as it gets closer to the election. But I think it is undeniable that there is support for getting to the bottom of his efforts to basically extort a foreign leader.
That's no question. It's also the kind of thing that I think everyone in this country is automatically just interested in.
Yeah.
It's easy to understand. The narrative is pretty simple. And I think we all want to know as much as possible about this story. Going back to the issue with the whistleblower, one thing I can tell you is that there are serious concerns within the intelligence community that the way the whistleblower is being described by Republicans and the way it's being covered is going to significantly impact the president's trust in the IC ever since he was elected, going back even to before. He's long sort of, bought into conspiracy theories about the intelligence community. But this particular moment has generated especially grave concerns.
On already a very shaky relationship. That's a good point.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.